Hi everyone, today we will going to talk about the next set of guidelines, that is the ICHQ3 guideline. So we'll discuss what this ICHQ3 is about and what are the its effect on the CMC modules and all. So let's start. The guideline is divided into the several subsections based on the types of impurity. So for example, Q3A is related to the impurities in new drug substance, and its scope applies to the organic, inorganic impurities in API. Next one we have ICH-Q3B, and it's also an impurities which are into the new drug product. Here we had new drug substance, and in Q3B we have new drug products. And scope applies to the degradation products in a final dosage form. Moving on to the third one, that is the ICH-Q3C. It's related to the residual solvent which is present into the final formulation. Scope is volatile chemical use during the manufacturing. And the last one we had Q3D, which is related to the elemental impurities, like we have metallic residues, lead, arsenic, forms all sources. Moving on to the another topic, that is the ICH-Q3A and Q3B, the threshold system. We'll understand now three terms which are used in the regulatory. So this is the most critical part of Q3 for the CMC professional. You don't have to identify or the justify every single tiny peak in your chromatogram. The ICH set threshold based on the maximum daily dose of the drug. So, so here they are trying to say uh, if you see the most of the critical part, this is the most critical part of our CMC professional, and you don't have to identify or justify every single tiny peak in your chromatogram. Let's suppose there is one particular impurities, but its appearance is very low into your compared to your API. So if it is below your reporting threshold or identification threshold or qualification threshold, then you don't need to worry about this. So, but how can we define up to what level it could be tolerated? So for that, to understand that, FDA has given these three terms and concept and threshold limits, we could say. The first one is the reporting threshold, the level at which the impurity must be recorded and included into the batch records or the batch results. The next we had the identification threshold, the level at which you must determine the chemical structure of the impurity. So let's suppose the impurity is present more than 0.1%, then in that case you have to determine the structure as well. Then next we have the qualification threshold, the level at which you must provide the toxicological data to prove the impurity is safe. Example, 0.15%. Let's suppose one particular impurity is present more than 0.1%, 0.15%. Then in that case, you have to provide the toxicological data to prove that the impurity is safe. Moving on to the residual solvent, that is our ICH-Q3C. So here the solvent are classified into the three categories based on their risk to the human. The first one, that is class 1. Class 1 we have to avoid, like known, these are the known carcinogens or the environmental hazards. Example is benzene, and this should not be used unless absolutely necessary. The next solvent class we have, that is ICH, sorry, there is class 2 solvents, and these are the non-genotoxic animal carcinogens or the possible causative agent of the irreversible toxicity. They have the specific PD, that is the permitted daily exposure limits. Examples are the methanol, acetonitrile, This we could use, but they have like a particular PD, that is permittable daily exposure. The human should not consume more than their permitted daily exposure, or it should not, human should not get exposure to the more than this permittable amount. Examples we have methanol and acetonitrile. Then we have class 3 solvents. These are the low toxic potential, like solvent with a PD of 50 mg or more per day. Examples are ethanol and acetone. These are considered safe in normal amount. Moving on to the ICHQ3D elemental impurities, unlike the organic impurities which arise from the synthesis, elemental impurities can be come from the catalyst, your equipment, water, or the container closure system. Then the risk assessment we have like the Q3D require a risk-based approach rather than just testing everything. You must evaluate the probability of 24 elements like lead, cadmium, mercury, and arsenic being present. Then last we have route of administration. Limit varies significantly. For example, the limit for the inhalation drug have much stricter limit than the for the oral drug. Then we have the last topic here, that is the regulatory affairs and CMC perspective. When the writing module 32S32, that is impurities, or 32P55, characterization of impurities. Uh, RA managers must focus on the impurity profile. You must compare the impurity profile of your commercial batches with those used in clinical trial. If the commercial batches has new impurity above the threshold that wasn't in clinical trial, you may have to redo the safety studies. Then specification of justification. If if the if you want to set and limit which is higher than the ICH qualification threshold, then you must provide a safety justification, usually a clinical data or the peer review toxicological assessment. Then we have genotoxic impurities like M7 correlation. While the Q3 covers the general impurities like ICH M7 handles the mutagenic impurities. If an impurity has structural alert for mutagenicity, the Q3 threshold no longer apply. You must meet much stricter limit, like it can be in ppm or the ppb, parts per million or billion. Then last we have mass balance. In stability studies, the assay value plus the total impurities should ideally equals to the 100%. If your assay drop 5% but your impurities only grow 1%, regulators will ask where did other 4% go? So it should like their total should be come, like mass balance should be there. So this for today. We have discussed the ICHQ 3 guideline. So that's for today. Thank you.